The bright stage lights of America's Got Talent glimmered like tiny stars, illuminating two men who had walked through decades of laughter, failure, bruised fingers, and relentless hope. John Wee and Owen Morse, better known as the Passing Zone, stood side by side, their juggling clubs neatly arranged like instruments waiting for a symphony to begin. But this night was different. This night wasn't just about tricks or laughs. It was about redemption, friendship, and proving that even comedy could carry the weight of courage. 1. The hook, the weight behind the laughs. John adjusted his microphone and looked out into the sea of faces. Somewhere in that darkness sat Howie Mandel, the man they were about to involve in the most dangerous, and hilarious, act of their lives. The crowd's chatter faded into a hush, and for a moment, the years rewound in John's mind. He remembered the dusty gym where they first met, two young men obsessed with juggling, neither knowing that the craft would one day bring them to one of the biggest stages in the world. Back then, the idea of making it felt impossible. They had spent nights performing for tiny crowds at street fairs, earning coins tossed into a hat, chasing the feeling that laughter could mean something bigger than applause. What no one saw was the heartbreak. John's father had passed away when he was still learning how to juggle, and it was Owen who kept him from giving up. Every time John dropped a club, Owen picked it up, smiling, saying, "We drop together, we rise together." It became their unspoken mantra, the rhythm behind every toss and every laugh. 2. The audition that changed everything. When America's Got Talent came around, they were in their 40s, too old, some said, for the TV dream. But they didn't come for fame. They came for something else. They came to prove that passion never expires. From the moment they stepped on stage for their first audition, they owned it, not with glitter or flash, but with humor that carried heart. Their juggling wasn't just physical, it was emotional choreography. Every catch, every spin was a testament to friendship, trust, and timing. Simon Cowell had smirked at first, expecting a simple comedy act. But then, the Passing Zone began their signature routine, throwing clubs between them at lightning speed, weaving jokes and danger together so tightly that the audience gasped, then roared with laughter. Howie Mandel, notoriously cautious, had leaned forward with childlike awe. "You guys," he had said, "are insane, and I love it." They made it through to the next round. 3. The plan, something never done before. Weeks later, backstage before the quarter-finals, John and Owen sat in near silence, hands trembling, not from nerves, but from what they were about to attempt. "Are we really doing this?" Owen asked, rubbing his palms. John grinned. "Howie's not gonna see it coming. But it'll be legendary." They had planned something outrageous, something that would make the judges part of their performance. And not just any judge. Howie Mandel himself. Howie was known for his fear of germs, his anxiety about physical contact. But the Passing Zone's act wasn't about touching, it was about trust. They wanted to show the world what happens when fear meets faith, when comedy meets compassion. That night, as they walked on stage, the audience chanted their name. The judges smiled expectantly. John looked at Howie and said, "Howie, we'd like you to join us for this one." The audience exploded in laughter and disbelief. Howie shook his head, laughing nervously. "You're kidding, right?" Owen held out a helmet and said, "No germs, Howie. Just courage." The crowd erupted again. 4. The act, fear, laughter, and faith. As the act began, Howie stood center stage in full protective gear, helmet, shield, even gloves, looking like a man preparing for a spacewalk. The audience laughed until they cried. But then, the juggling started. John and Owen circled him, tossing clubs, flaming torches, and even sharp objects with dangerous precision. Every second was a test of trust. The cameras zoomed in on Howie's face, half terrified, half thrilled. His nervous laughter filled the room, but beneath it, something shifted. For the first time in years, Howie wasn't the germophobic comedian or the cautious judge. He was just a man, vulnerable, human, surrounded by people who wanted to make him laugh, not at him, but with him. And laughter, pure, contagious laughter, did what years of therapy never could. It freed him. 5. The unexpected turn. Halfway through the act, one of the torches slipped. Gasps echoed through the hall. The torch spun in the air, flames twisting like a comet, and landed harmlessly at Howie's feet. John's heart stopped, but Howie, he laughed. A deep, genuine, belly-shaking laugh. John froze. That wasn't in the script. Keep going, Howie shouted. I trust you guys. The audience rose to their feet. Even Simon was smiling, actually smiling. What had begun as a comedy routine had turned into something profound, a moment of trust, raw and unguarded. 6. The emotional climax. When the act ended, the lights dimmed, and the crowd's roar filled the stage. Howie pulled off his helmet, his eyes shining with tears of laughter, and maybe something more. He turned to John and Owen, still breathless. That was insane, he said, his voice trembling. But you know what? I didn't feel scared. I felt safe. The camera panned across the audience, people wiping tears, clapping, cheering. It wasn't just about juggling anymore. It was about facing fear with trust, finding courage in comedy, and seeing humanity in humor. Behind the scenes, John and Owen embraced quietly. They had done it. They hadn't just entertained, they had connected. 7. The transformation. Later that night, backstage, Howie approached them. His voice was softer than usual. You know, he said, I've spent years trying to keep distance from people. It's my way of feeling in control. But you too, you reminded me that sometimes, letting people in is what keeps us human. John smiled. That's what passing is all about, Howie. We keep the pattern going together. None of us can do it alone. That line stayed with Howie. And in the days that followed, millions who watched the performance online echoed the same sentiment. The video went viral, not just for the laughs, but for the message, trust can heal, and laughter can bridge the deepest fears. 8. The heartfelt ending. Months later, at the season finale, the passing zone didn't take home the $1 million prize, but they took home something better. They took home hearts. When they returned to the AGT stage for a reunion performance, Howie volunteered again, this time, without the gloves or helmet. He stood between them, arms open, laughing freely. The act was still hilarious, still dangerous, still brilliant, but this time, it meant more. It was a celebration of friendship, trust, and courage, the very essence of what makes people human. As the final club soared through the air and landed safely in John's hand, the stage lights bathed them all in gold. The audience rose as one, clapping, cheering, some even crying. Owen looked at John and whispered, we drop together, we rise together. John nodded, his voice breaking. Always. And as they bowed, Howie clapped them on the back, a simple gesture, but one that spoke louder than any trophy ever could. 9. The message. That night, across the world, millions watched and felt something stir inside them. People who had given up on dreams found new courage. Those who had lost faith in others saw the beauty of trust again. Because in a world often divided by fear, laughter became the language of hope. And as the credits rolled, the message lingered. Sometimes, the bravest act of all isn't juggling knives or flames. It's juggling trust, fear, and faith, and realizing that when we catch what life throws at us together, we all become part of something extraordinary. Moral greater than laughter can heal wounds that words cannot. Trust can bridge fears that seem impossible. And sometimes, the most powerful acts of courage happen not in silence, but in the middle of a roaring crowd, under the bright lights, when two friends toss hope back and forth and never let it fall.